Hello everyone, Inquisitor Vaughn here, and in today's video we are going to continue with our Necron Dynasty deep dives by going into the Mephrit Dynasty. Besides having a really cool color scheme, the Mephrit Dynasty is one of the more powerful of the Necron dynasties for their specific profession in destroying stars. If you guys have watched my Novak Dynasty deep dive, I mentioned how Galmak the Moon Killer got his name, the Moon Killer, because he would destroy the moons of planets that would defy the Novak Dynasty, right? And I would go on to explain how when you destroy a planet's moon, you can actually disrupt the rotation of the planet, and you can affect conditions on the surface. So destroying a moon is kind of like torture. If you're a Necron overlord who wants to teach someone a lesson, you destroy their moon, you disrupt the environment on the planet that depends on the moon, right? But with the Mephrit, what they would do is destroy the sun, and there's nothing you can do when a sun is destroyed. Like if you are in a system and the Mephrit say, hey, you need to submit to us, and you disagree with them and you say no, and they destroy your sun, that's just game over. You can't escape that, you know? And so they are one of the more OP Necron dynasties because of their specialization in destroying suns. And in today's video, we're going to go into their lore. Now, the Mephrit dynasty is a Necron dynasty with a dynastic territory to the north of Terra in the Ultima Segmentum. The heraldic color of the Mephrit dynasty is a bright sunburst orange, which, when you consider their lore, is actually really appropriate given their specialty in making suns burst. Get it? Sunburst. Sunburst equals, destroying suns. Yep, the opportunity was there and I took it. But let's continue with the lore. The Mephrit dynastic Ankh is said to have originally been intended to reflect the constellation which surrounded their crown world, but with over 60 million years passing by during the Great Sleep, some of the stars that were in that constellation have since died, and the constellation which their Ankh is based off of is now unrecognizable compared to its former state. As with most of the Necron dynasties, the history of the Mephrit dynasty is largely unknown. What little information is available to us states that during the War in Heaven, the Mephrit specialized in stellar destruction, using technology capable of making stars go supernova. So they were basically star killers. Another piece of information states that the Silent King frequently went to and turned to the dynasty to bring troublesome worlds to heal, and that most Necrontyr believed that their methods betrayed the Necrontyr codes of honorable warfare. Now, these two bits of information are interesting, and they provide more context to the history of the dynasty. Being that the Silent King turned to the Mephrit dynasty implies that the Mephrit dynasty was loyal to the Silent King and the Triarch as Necrontyr, which also means that those troublesome worlds that are mentioned in their lore were not only other alien species that they were fighting against during the expansion, but other Necrontyr, likely the successionists to the expanding Necrontyr Empire during the first wars of succession. So if we go off of what is implied in their lore, the Mephrit dynasty could very well be one of the original Necrontyr houses. They were loyal to the Triarch and they were extremely powerful, being that they harnessed technology capable of destroying stars. As Necrons during the War in Heaven, they utilized this star-killing power against the Old Ones and the forces under the Old Ones. Now, Zarak was not the Silent King during the first Wars of Succession, which means that the Mephrit were loyal to the Triarch and whichever Silent King was in power. They were loyal to the throne. They were a traditionalist dynasty in all aspects, from loyalty to the Triarch 2, an adherence to the military organization, which is implied through their dynastic glyphs being broken down forms of their dynastic Ankh. All aspects except 1. They destroyed the stars of their enemies. This is completely contradictory to the Necrontyr codes of war, which by themselves emphasized honor and straightforward war, which gave an enemy the opportunity to fight back and possibly win. Making stars blow up erased the possibility of that and completely dismissed the Necrontyr codes of war. However, as far as we know, the Mephrit were never chastised for it by the Triarch. Apparently, the Silent King favored their means of destruction and wielded them against the Necrontyr successionists and the forces of the Old Ones alike. The pharaoh of the Mephrit dynasty was Kyrak the Eternal, who actually turned out not to be so eternal because he was killed during the Great Sleep by Eldar assassins. This has left the Mephrit dynasty without a pharaoh, but with multiple nobles such as Overlord Zarathustra the Ineffable, Eknathet the Glorious, and Anubitar of the Thousand Victories, playing the political game in an attempt to vie for power and claim the title of pharaoh for themselves through achieving feats of great military victory. There is also Zubakar, who was a Lord Nemesor of the Mephrit dynasty and a member of the Awakened Council. Now, the Awakened Council was a group of Necron nobles who woke up prematurely during the Great Sleep, around M31. They gathered to try to come up with ways to prevent infighting when the dynasties arose from the Great Sleep, until the Silent King returned and restored order. However, the council dissolved when the Great Awakening occurred because the amount of infighting was just too much. Necron timing is crazy. Imagine spending 10,000 years trying to figure out a solution to a problem only to not find one when the infighting actually starts. There is also a figure called the Jade Overlord. He is an overlord of the Mephrit dynasty who rules over the tomb world of Jagos. This guy did not want to be disturbed during the Great Sleep, and so he destroyed every star and planet within a dozen light years of Jagos. Clearly, this is the guy who needs to be the pharaoh of the Mephrit dynasty, and I'm only half joking. The Mephrit were known to destroy stars during their early history. However, they currently don't have that ability anymore. The ability to destroy stars is what the other overlords of the dynasty are trying to be able to do, and this has driven them to seek out members of a shady organization called the Technomandrites of Magistrak. These guys were shady because as Necrontyr, during the Wars of Succession, they stayed neutral but sold their knowledge of devastating weapons to the highest bidder. If it wasn't already implied, these guys were cryptex. Now the Triarch saw this conclave of cryptex as a threat and used the war against the Old Ones as a means to get rid of them. Now only a few of them survived, and those that did survive seek both vengeance and glory and seem to be standing in opposition to Zarek now that he has returned. Zarathustra, Eknathet, and Anubitar are seeking the surviving Technomandrites in order to obtain the technology which will destroy stars. The first one to do this will likely rise as pharaoh of the Mephrit dynasty. This suggests two things. First, that the power of the Mephrit dynasty might have come from their wealth with which they were able to purchase the technology that they used to destroy stars. They seem to be the only dynasty that specialized in the ability and specialized in destroying stars. What this also suggests is that Kyrak the Eternal, now that he's gone, the three overlords fighting for the position of pharaoh don't have the knowledge or the technology to destroy stars. It's literally the reason why they are searching for the Technomandrites. But do you know who likely has the knowledge and technology to destroy stars? The Jade Overlord. After all, he destroyed every single celestial body within 12 light years of his tomb world before the Great Sleep. How could he have done that without the technology to do so? It's so funny how the other overlords are so busy with their pompous titles and military victories to appeal to the Technomandrites, when a noble simply known as the Jade Pharaon used the technology that they are all fighting over just to get some undisturbed beauty sleep for 60 million years. Okay, so something I feel that I should emphasize here is that it's not like the Mephrit dynasty has lost all of the technology it once had. It's just that a lot of it has been lost or otherwise has fallen to disrepair. While Kyrak the Eternal was assassinated by the Eldar, the crown world of the Mephrit dynasty, which was likely where Kyrak rested and where most of the weapons were, was infested by an alien species known as the Hrud. The Hrud are an intelligent xenospecies who possess the ability to dramatically accelerate the aging of any living being or accelerate the effects of entropy to anything that they are near. This, combined with the fact that they are prone to subterranean environments, meant that once they infested the Mephrit crown world, 60 million years became 240 million years in an instant, and the Necrons and technology that contributed to the Mephrit's power all fell victim to the effects of entropy. So the weapons exist, they just need the Technomandrites to fix them, or to fix what remains of them. Still, the Mephrit do have powerful weaponry, and they used the captured energy of suns to power themselves and their weapons, which is why the Necrons of the Mephrit dynasty have a distinct orange color to their inner energy and their weapons glow. The Mephrit dynasty uses these supercharged weapons to fight against the Eldar, specifically targeting Exodite worlds and claiming those worlds as their own. The Eldar have banded together to fight back against the Mephrit, but the Mephrit are relentless in this regard. In regards to the tomb worlds that the Mephrit dynasty has, besides Jagos, they have a tomb world, an active tomb world called Perdita, and another one called Kirakotash, I think that's how you pronounce it. But nothing is known about these tomb worlds besides the fact that they are active. And that has been my deep dive of the Mephrit dynasty. Now, like in all my videos, I'm just going to go over some important points of the video that I made in this video, and then I'm going to share my thoughts on the dynasty. All right. The Mephrit were once renowned star killers amongst the Necron dynasties. This was an ability they acquired as Necrontyr, and an ability that they utilized all the way up until the Great Sleep. The weapons that the Mephrit used to destroy stars are directly connected to a mysterious, shady order of cryptechs known as the Technomandrites. Many Mephrit overlords seek these individuals in order to repair the star-killing machines of their past glory. The Mephrit dynasty currently has no pharaoh. Their pharaoh was killed during the Great Sleep by Eldar assassins. The Mephrit used the captured orange energy of suns in their weapons, which is why their heraldic color is orange. And in the current timeline, the Mephrit dynasty are specifically fighting against the Eldar. Okay, so my thoughts on the Mephrit dynasty. I actually really like their color scheme. Whoever thought of it was a genius. It's like the camo green with the bright sunburst orange. Sunburst orange is one of my favorite colors, and so maybe I'm being a little bit biased here, but that combination of the camo green with the sunburst orange is just great. And then the silver of the Necrodermis bodies is just perfect. In regards to the history of the Mephrit dynasty and how the Silent King would turn to them to subjugate troublesome worlds, it seems like the Silent Kings of the Necrontyr favored unorthodox dynasties and used those unorthodox dynasties against other Necrons or Necrontyr, depending on the timeline. Because, for example, we have the Menarch dynasty, which ironically also had like an orange energy glow coming from them. The Silent King at the time, and it would appear to be all Silent Kings, had the Menarch dynasty as their left hand, which they would wield against other Necrontyr and other Necrons. And so it seems like it's the same situation with the Mephrit dynasty. It seemed like the Silent King was willing to ignore the fact that they loved destroying people's sons and like completely spat in the face of dynastic traditions in order to subjugate the people that he wanted to subjugate. And I think that's telling of the nature of the Silent King and what you have to be and how you have to be a Silent King. You kind of have to be a hypocrite. Even the current Silent King, which is Zarek, he uses death marks and can't really say that he uses them, but he has them in his arsenal of weapons that he can use against other Necrons, even though he is the Silent King of the Necron Empire. He is supposed to be a paragon of the honorable codes of the Necron Empire, and yet he's doing these undersided things. And so when I look at the history of the Mephrit dynasty, it's like, yeah, the king really likes unorthodox dynasties, and this is apparent in both the Menarch and the Mephrit dynasties. Last but not least, I made a point in a previous video that talked about Xerath, the Illuminar, or, you know, the most hated being in the universe. And I talked about how his original color scheme was that he had silver necrodermis, and then he had certain plates that were kind of like dark green or light green, depending on the artist. And then the inner energy of Xerath, as well as his staff, his Eldritch Lance, the original color scheme for those things was orange. And there's no information whatsoever on the dynasty that Xerath comes from. But if we look at the original scheme and we ignore the current scheme of Xerath as a member of the Zarekan dynasty, or he painted in the Zarekan dynasty, they only really painted him that scheme to promote the Zarekan dynasty. His original scheme is the silver, the green, and the orange. If we were to look at that scheme and we were to compare it to the artwork of the Mephrit dynasty, it pretty much points out that Xerath is a Necron cryptek of the Mephrit dynasty. But then again, that's just me assuming. There is nothing saying that's true. I'm just guessing based on the original color scheme and the original art. It seems like Xerath might have come from the Mephrit dynasty, but like I said, just a theory. But I wanted to state it here that it's a possibility, you know. And with that being done, I am done with the video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that this video had some sort of value to you, and hopefully it'll inspire some people to collect the Mephrit dynasty. Now, I'm even inspired to collect the Mephrit dynasty. I freaking love their color scheme. But let me know what you think in the comments below. We're going to be continuing the Necron deep dive videos with another dynasty. Hopefully in a few days. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, Inquisitor Vaughn out. Remember, the Emperor protects and the future is successor.